When a CEO known for cold perfection opened her penthouse door to a homeless single father, nobody expected what would happen next. Evelyn Cross had built an empire on control, but Caleb Morgan was about to shatter every rule she lived by. This is the story of two people who had nothing in common except exhaustion, desperation, and the courage to break down walls neither knew they'd built. Stay until the end to see how one simple meal changed everything. Hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far this story reaches across the world. The eviction notice came on a Tuesday. Caleb Morgan stood in the doorway of what used to be his apartment, holding the single piece of paper that had just dismantled his entire life. The landlord's voice droned somewhere behind him, mechanical and rehearsed, explaining timelines and legal obligations and the consequences of unpaid rent. But Caleb wasn't listening. He was staring at the orange sticker plastered across his door, at the boxes stacked in the hallway, at his daughter's purple backpack sitting on top of everything they owned. 3 bags. 1 backpack. That was it. "Mr. Morgan, did you hear what I said?" Caleb turned slowly. The landlord was a short man with tired eyes and a clipboard, someone just doing their job. No malice. No sympathy either. "Yeah," Caleb said quietly. "I heard you. You have until Friday to clear out completely. After that, anything left behind becomes property of—" "I got it." Caleb's voice was flat. "Thanks." The landlord hesitated, then nodded and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the concrete stairwell. Caleb stood there alone, the paper still in his hand, trying to figure out what the hell he was supposed to do next. He was 32 years old, a single father, working 3 delivery shifts a week just to keep the lights on. And now he didn't even have lights to keep on. His phone buzzed. A text from his daughter's school reminded him about early pickup today. Right. Today was also the day he'd promised to take Emma to the park. He'd been promising her that for 2 weeks. Caleb stuffed the eviction notice into his pocket, grabbed the purple backpack, and headed down the stairs. His car, a 15-year-old sedan with a cracked windshield and an exhaust system held together by hope, was parked in the back lot. He threw the backpack into the passenger seat and sat behind the wheel for a long time, staring at nothing. He wasn't a man who cried easily. He'd learned early that tears didn't fix problems. But sitting there, in a car that barely ran, with nowhere to go and a 6-year-old daughter depending on him, Caleb felt something close to breaking. His phone rang. Unknown number. Normally he wouldn't answer. Debt collectors had his number memorized by now. But something made him pick up. "Hello. Is this Caleb Morgan?" The voice was female, crisp, professional, not a collector. "Yeah, who's this?" "My name is Diane Reese. I'm calling on behalf of Evelyn Cross." Caleb frowned. The name meant nothing to him. "I think you have the wrong number." "You work for Summit Delivery Services, correct?" "Yeah, so?" "Miss Cross requested a driver last month for a private transport. You were assigned. She was impressed with your professionalism." Caleb vaguely remembered the job. High-end neighborhood, penthouse apartment, a woman who barely looked at him when she signed the receipt. He'd carried 12 boxes of files up 4 flights of stairs because the freight elevator was broken. She'd tipped well but said nothing. "Okay," Caleb said slowly. "What's this about?" "Miss Cross is aware of your current housing situation." Caleb went cold. "How the hell does she know about that?" "She makes it her business to know things, Mr. Morgan. She's offering temporary accommodation. No rent, no obligations. Just a place to stay until you get back on your feet." It sounded insane. It sounded like a scam. Why would she do that? You'd have to ask her yourself. Are you interested or not? Caleb should have said no, should have hung up, should have recognized this for what it probably was, some weird setup or charity case he didn't want to be part of. But he thought about Emma, about the eviction notice, about sleeping in his car, or worse. What's the catch? No catch, just rules. Miss Cross values order and privacy. If you can respect that, the offer stands. Caleb closed his eyes, swallowed his pride, made a choice. Where do I go? Yeah. The address Diane gave him was in a part of the city Caleb had only ever driven through, never stopped in. Glass towers, valet parking, doormen in uniforms that probably cost more than his entire wardrobe. He pulled up to the building just after 5 p.m., Emma asleep in the back seat, her small hand clutching a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. The valet approached, took one look at Caleb's car, and hesitated. "I'm here to see Evelyn Cross," Caleb said before the guy could say anything. The valet's expression shifted immediately. "Of course. I'll have someone park your vehicle. Top floor. Penthouse access is through the private elevator." Caleb unbuckled Emma carefully, lifting her into his arms. She stirred, but didn't wake. He grabbed the backpack and one duffel bag, leaving the rest for now, and followed the valet's directions into the lobby. Everything was marble and steel. Chandeliers that looked like they belonged in museums. People in tailored suits moving with purpose. Caleb felt every stare, every judgment. His jeans were worn. His shirt had a grease stain from work. His boots were scuffed. He didn't belong here. The elevator doors opened. A man in a black suit stepped aside. "Penthouse?" Caleb nodded. The man pressed a button, scanned a keycard, and stepped out. The doors closed. The elevator rose smoothly, silently, 43 floors in what felt like seconds. When the doors opened again, Caleb stepped into a private foyer, and that's when he saw her. Evelyn Cross stood in the center of the space, hands folded in front of her, posture perfect, expression unreadable. She was probably late 30s, though it was hard to tell. Sharp features, dark hair pulled back, a tailored gray suit that looked like it had been designed specifically for her body. She looked like someone who'd never made a mistake in her life. "Mr. Morgan?" she said. Her voice was calm, controlled, completely devoid of warmth. "You're late." Caleb blinked. "I didn't know there was a specific time." "There's always a specific time." She glanced at Emma, still asleep in his arms. "Your daughter?" "Yeah, Emma." Evelyn's expression didn't change. "Follow me." She turned without waiting for a response and walked into the apartment. Caleb followed, trying not to stare at everything around him. The space was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that looked like it came from design magazines. Everything white, gray, black. Clean lines, no clutter, no warmth. It looked like a place people photographed, not lived in. Evelyn stopped in front of a hallway. "Second door on the left. That's your room. There's a smaller room adjacent. Your daughter can use that. Bathroom is shared, but you'll have your own access." "This is really generous," Caleb said carefully. "It's practical," Evelyn corrected. "I have space." "You need space? It's a temporary arrangement." "How temporary?" "Until you stabilize. Weeks, maybe months. We'll reassess as needed." Caleb shifted Emma's weight in his arms. "What do you want in return?" For the first time, something flickered across Evelyn's face. Not offense, not surprise. Something harder to name. "I want you to follow 3 rules," she said. "First, respect the space. Don't touch anything that isn't yours. Don't move furniture. Don't make noise after 10 p.m. Second, your daughter stays in designated areas. The office, the master suite, and the east wing are off limits. Third, we are not friends. This is not a social arrangement. You are a guest. I am allowing you to stay. That's the extent of our relationship." Caleb met her eyes. They were gray, cold, completely serious. "Understood," he said. "Good." Evelyn glanced at her watch. "I have work to finish. There's food in the kitchen if you need it. Towels are in the linen closet. Don't wait up." She turned and disappeared down another hallway, heels clicking against the hardwood floor. A door closed. Silence followed. Caleb stood there, holding his daughter, surrounded by luxury he'd never touched, trying to process what the hell had just happened. Emma stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, still heavy with sleep. "Daddy?" she whispered. "Where are we?" Caleb looked around the massive apartment, at the city lights glittering through the windows, at the pristine furniture and the cold perfection of everything. "Somewhere safe," he said quietly. "For now." The first night was the hardest. Emma woke up twice, disoriented and scared. Caleb sat with her in the small adjacent room Evelyn had assigned, stroking her hair and telling her stories until she fell back asleep. He didn't sleep. He couldn't. Every sound felt too loud. Every movement felt like trespassing. At 3 a.m., he finally gave up and walked to the kitchen. The space was immaculate. Stainless steel appliances that looked like they'd never been used. Countertops without a single scratch. Caleb opened the fridge carefully, half expecting it to be empty. It wasn't, but it might as well have been. There was bottled water, a container of yogurt, some wilted lettuce, a bottle of white wine. Nothing that constituted an actual meal. Nothing that suggested someone actually lived here. Caleb closed the fridge and leaned against the counter, rubbing his face. This woman, Evelyn Cross, had offered him shelter, had given him a room in a penthouse worth more than he'd make in 10 years. And yet, standing in her kitchen, Caleb felt something close to sadness, because he recognized this. He'd lived like this once, after Emma's mother left, after the divorce, when he was working 80-hour weeks, convincing himself that exhaustion was the same thing as purpose. He knew what it looked like when someone forgot how to live. A door opened somewhere down the hall, footsteps. Caleb tensed, ready to apologize for being in the kitchen so late. But the footsteps didn't come toward him. They went the other direction, toward what Caleb assumed was the office. A light clicked on. A door closed. Caleb checked the time. 3:17 a.m. She was working. He went back to his room, lay down on a bed more comfortable than anything he'd ever owned, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. The days that followed settled into a strange rhythm. Caleb woke early, made breakfast for Emma, got her ready for school. Evelyn was always gone before they woke up. The apartment was silent, untouched, like they were ghosts living in a museum. He worked his delivery shifts, picking up hours wherever he could. The company had given him more routes after he explained his situation, probably out of pity, but Caleb didn't care. He needed the money, needed to save, needed to get out of Evelyn's apartment before he wore out whatever strange welcome he'd been given. Emma adjusted faster than he expected. She liked the big windows, liked the view, liked having her own room, even if it was small. "Is the fancy lady ever home?" Emma asked one evening while they ate dinner, takeout, because Caleb didn't feel comfortable cooking in Evelyn's kitchen. "She works a lot," Caleb said. "What does she do?" "I don't know, something important." "Is she nice?" Caleb thought about that. About Evelyn's cold voice, her strict rules, the way she looked at him like he was a problem to be managed, not a person. "She's helping us," he said finally. "That's nice." Emma considered this, then shrugged and went back to her chicken nuggets. Later, after Emma was asleep, Caleb sat in the small living area near the windows, watching the city lights. He heard the elevator chime. The door opened. Heels clicked across the floor. Evelyn appeared, still in her suit, still perfectly composed, even though it was nearly midnight. She saw him, paused, then continued toward her office without a word. "Long day?" Caleb asked. Evelyn stopped, turned slowly. "Is there something you need, Mr. Morgan?" "No, just making conversation." "I don't require conversation." "Right. Sorry." She studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. "The takeout containers," she said. "You left them in the kitchen." Caleb winced. "Yeah, I was going to clean up. Don't apologize. Just dispose of them properly. Recycling is under the sink." "Got it." Another pause. Evelyn's eyes drifted to the window, to the city beyond. "You don't have to stay up," she said. "I won't disturb you." "I know, I'm just not tired." "You work early shifts. You should be exhausted." "Yeah," Caleb said quietly. "Probably." Evelyn looked at him again. Something shifted in her expression, just barely, just enough for Caleb to see the exhaustion beneath the control. "Good night, Mr. Morgan." "Good night." She disappeared into her office. The door closed. The light came on. Caleb sat there for another hour, watching the shadows under her door, wondering what the hell she was working on that couldn't wait until morning. Also, weeks passed. Caleb saved every dollar he could. Started looking at apartments he could actually afford. Nothing felt right. Everything felt too expensive, too small, too far from Emma's school. But he kept looking. Because this arrangement, living in Evelyn Cross's penthouse, following her rules, existing in her orbit, wasn't sustainable. He saw her rarely. She left before dawn, came home late. Sometimes she didn't come home at all. Caleb learned to recognize the patterns. 3 nights a week, the apartment stayed empty. Those were the nights Evelyn stayed at her office downtown. He learned other things, too. She never cooked. The kitchen stayed pristine because she never used it. She never watched TV. The massive screen in the living room was for decoration. She never had visitors. No friends, no family, no one. The apartment was a monument to success, and it was completely, utterly lonely. One evening, Caleb broke a rule. Not on purpose. Emma had been playing near the hallway, technically allowed, and her ball rolled toward the office door. Caleb went to grab it and noticed the door was slightly open. He could see inside. Evelyn sat at her desk, surrounded by papers, laptop open, phone pressed to her ear. Her voice was sharp, professional, cutting through someone's excuses without mercy. I don't care about the timeline. I care about results. Fix it or I'll find someone who can. She hung up, didn't move, just sat there, staring at the screen, her shoulders tight with tension. Caleb picked up the ball and stepped back quietly, but not quietly enough. Evelyn's head turned, their eyes met. I'm sorry, Caleb said immediately. Emma's ball? It's fine. Evelyn's voice was tired, flat. Close the door on your way out. Caleb hesitated. You okay? Excuse me? You look tired. Evelyn's expression hardened. I don't recall asking for your concern, Mr. Morgan. I know, sorry, just close the door. Caleb did. But he couldn't stop thinking about the look in her eyes, the exhaustion, the isolation. He knew that look, had seen it in the mirror often enough. The breaking point came on a Thursday. Caleb's car finally gave up. Died in the middle of a delivery route, smoke pouring from the hood, engine making sounds that meant expensive repairs he couldn't afford. He called a tow truck, called his supervisor, called the school to explain why he'd be late picking up Emma. By the time he got home, taking 2 buses and walking the last 6 blocks, it was past 8 p.m. Emma was exhausted. Caleb was beyond exhausted. He opened the apartment door, carried Emma inside, and stopped. Evelyn was home. She stood in the kitchen, still in her suit, staring at the coffee maker like it had personally offended her. Mr. Morgan, she said without turning around, you're late. Car broke down. I see. Emma yawned. Caleb set her down gently. Go get ready for bed, sweetheart. I'll be there in a minute. Emma nodded and shuffled toward their room. Caleb turned back to Evelyn. Sorry if we're being too loud. You're not. She pressed a button on the coffee maker. Nothing happened. She pressed it again, harder. That model's kind of tricky, Caleb said. You have to hold it for 3 seconds. Evelyn stared at the machine. Then, without warning, she slammed her hand against the counter. The sound echoed through the apartment. Caleb froze. Evelyn stood there, breathing hard, her perfect composure finally cracking. When was the last time you ate? Caleb asked quietly. That's none of your concern. When, Evelyn? She turned to face him, eyes blazing. Don't presume to... Breakfast? Lunch? Anything? Evelyn's jaw tightened. I had coffee. That's not food. I'm perfectly capable of managing my own. You're starving yourself. The words hung in the air. Evelyn's expression shifted. Anger, denial, something closer to shame. You don't know anything about me, she said coldly. I know what I see, Caleb said. Someone who works 20-hour days, who doesn't sleep, who doesn't eat, who lives in a beautiful apartment and doesn't actually live in it. Get out of my kitchen. No. Evelyn blinked. What did you just say? I said no. Caleb walked past her, opened the fridge. Same as always, yogurt, lettuce, wine, nothing. He closed it, turned back to her. When's the last time someone cooked for you? Evelyn stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. That's what I thought, Caleb said. Sit down. I will not sit down. Something in his voice made her pause. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the fact that someone was finally pushing back against her control. Evelyn sat. Caleb opened cabinets, found pasta, canned tomatoes, garlic. Basic ingredients, probably untouched for months. He started cooking. Evelyn watched in silence. 20 minutes later, Caleb set a plate in front of her. Nothing fancy, just pasta with marinara sauce, garlic bread on the side. Eat, he said. Evelyn looked at the food, then at him. Why are you doing this? Because you gave me what I needed when I had nothing, Caleb said. And because I recognize what you're doing to yourself. You don't know me. I know enough. Evelyn picked up the fork slowly, took a bite, chewed, swallowed, her eyes closed. It's good, she whispered. Caleb sat down across from her with his own plate. They ate in silence. And for the first time since he'd moved in, the apartment felt like something other than a mausoleum. When they finished, Evelyn didn't get up immediately. She sat there, staring at her empty plate. I don't know how to do this anymore, she said quietly. Do what? Slow down. Stop. Just be. Caleb nodded. Yeah, I get that. You do? I worked myself into the ground after my divorce. Thought if I stayed busy enough, I wouldn't feel anything. Didn't work. Evelyn looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. What changed? Emma, Caleb said simply. She needed me to be present. Not perfect. Just there. Evelyn's expression softened, just barely. I was married once, she said. He left because I chose work over him, over us. I told myself it didn't matter, that success was enough. Is it? She didn't answer. Caleb stood, collected the plates. You don't have to figure it all out tonight, but you do have to eat. Deal? Evelyn almost smiled. Deal. She stood, hesitated, then extended her hand. Evelyn. Caleb shook it. Caleb. I know your name, Mr. Morgan. Then maybe stop calling me Mr. Morgan. This time she did smile. Just a little. Good night, Caleb. Good night, Evelyn. She walked to her office, paused at the door, then turned back. Thank you. Caleb nodded. The door closed. But this time the light stayed off. And somewhere in the silence of that massive apartment, something shifted. Something began to heal. Neither of them knew it yet, but that meal, simple, honest, shared, was the first crack in walls that had taken years to build. It was the beginning of something neither of them had planned for, something that would change everything. The next morning, Caleb woke to the smell of burning toast. He shot out of bed, heart pounding, and rushed to the kitchen. Evelyn stood in front of the toaster, waving a dish towel at the smoke detector, which was screaming its protest into the early morning silence. What are you doing? Caleb shouted over the alarm. What does it look like? Evelyn snapped back, still waving the towel. I'm making breakfast. Caleb grabbed a chair, climbed up, and pressed the reset button on the detector. The noise cut off abruptly. In the sudden silence, he could hear Emma stirring in her room. He climbed down, turned to Evelyn. She stood there in silk pajamas and a robe, hair loose around her shoulders, looking nothing like the composed CEO he'd been living with for weeks. She looked younger, more human, and completely out of her depth in her own kitchen. You don't have to make breakfast, Caleb said carefully. You made dinner last night. Evelyn gestured at the blackened toast. I thought I should reciprocate. That's really nice, but maybe we start with something that doesn't involve fire, right? Evelyn looked at the ruined toast, then at Caleb, and something unexpected happened. She laughed. It was short, almost rusty, like she was out of practice, but it was genuine. I can run a company worth $2 billion, she said, but I can't make toast. $2 billion? Caleb blinked. Jesus. Does that change things? Should it? Evelyn studied him for a moment, then shook her head. No, I suppose it shouldn't. Emma appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Why does it smell funny? The fancy lady tried to cook, Caleb said. My name is Evelyn, Evelyn said, looking at Emma. Then softer, you can call me Evelyn. Emma brightened. Okay. Hi, Evelyn. Hello, Emma. It was such a small moment. But watching Evelyn, this woman who controlled boardrooms and commanded respect with a single look, awkwardly greet his daughter in a smoke-filled kitchen, Caleb felt something shift in his chest. How about I make pancakes? He offered. Evelyn, you want to help? Evelyn looked startled. I don't know how. Then you'll learn. She hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with not being an expert at something. But she nodded. For the next 40 minutes, Caleb taught a billionaire CEO how to make pancakes. Evelyn measured flour with the precision of a scientist. She whisked eggs like she was in a board meeting, efficient, focused, determined to get it right. When the first pancake hit the pan, she watched it like a hawk. "Don't flip it yet," Caleb said, standing beside her. "Wait for the bubbles." "What bubbles?" "See? Right there. When they pop and don't fill back in, that's when you flip." Evelyn flipped the pancake. It was slightly lopsided, but golden brown. She stared at it with something close to wonder. "I did that." "You did," Emma clapped. "It looks yummy." They ate together at the kitchen island, the first time all three of them had shared a meal. Emma chattered about school, about her friends, about a drawing she was making of the city from the big windows. Evelyn listened, actually listened, asking questions that made Emma beam with pride. When Emma ran off to get ready for school, Evelyn helped Caleb clean up. They worked in comfortable silence until Evelyn spoke. "I have a meeting at 8, she said. "But this was nice." "Yeah," Caleb agreed. "It was." Evelyn dried her hands on a towel, folded it precisely, then looked at him. "The pasta last night, the pancakes this morning. You didn't have to do any of that." "Neither did you, but you let us stay here." "That's different." "Is it?" Evelyn didn't answer. She glanced at her watch, and Caleb saw the walls starting to go back up. The CEO mask sliding into place. "Evelyn," he said, "when you come home tonight, there'll be dinner. You don't have to eat it, but it'll be there." She met his eyes. "Why?" "Because nobody should live the way you've been living, and because maybe we can help each other." Something flickered across her face, vulnerability, hope, fear. She nodded once, then walked away to get ready for work. But that night, when Caleb made spaghetti carbonara, Evelyn came home at 7 instead of midnight. She sat at the table without being asked, and when she took the first bite, she closed her eyes and let out a breath that sounded like relief. The pattern repeated. Slowly, carefully, like two people learning a new language. Caleb cooked. Evelyn came home earlier. They ate together. Sometimes Emma joined them. Sometimes she was already asleep, and it was just the two of them in the vast apartment, sharing food and careful conversation. "Tell me about your company," Caleb said one evening. Evelyn looked up from her plate. "Why?" "Because you spend every waking hour there. Must be important." She set down her fork. "We develop software for healthcare systems. Electronic records, data security, patient privacy. It's technical. Boring, probably, to most people. Sounds like it saves lives. Indirectly, perhaps." "That's not boring. That's important." Evelyn looked at him like he'd said something profound. "Most people just see the bottom line, the profit margins." "I'm not most people." "No," she said quietly. "You're not." Another night, Evelyn asked about Emma's mother. "She left when Emma was 2, Caleb said, staring at his wine glass. Evelyn had opened a bottle, expensive, probably, and insisted he try it. Said she wasn't ready to be a mother, wasn't ready for the responsibility. She sends a birthday card once a year, that's it. That must have been devastating. It was. But I had Emma. Had to keep going. You're a good father." Caleb looked up, surprised. "How do you know?" "I see how she looks at you, how comfortable she is. That doesn't happen by accident." He swallowed hard. "Thanks. That means a lot." Evelyn nodded, then stood abruptly. "I should get back to work. It's 9 p.m. There's a contract I need to review." "Evelyn," she stopped, turned. "The contract will be there tomorrow," Caleb said gently. "Stay, just for a little while." She looked torn, but she sat back down. They talked until almost 11. About nothing important, about everything, books they'd read, movies they'd seen, the strangeness of living in a city that never slept. When Evelyn finally stood to leave, she paused by the table. "I don't remember the last time I did this," she said. "Just talked, without an agenda. Did you like it?" "I think so." She smiled, small but real. "Good night, Caleb." "Good night." He watched her walk to her bedroom, not her office. The next morning, she looked more rested than he'd ever seen her. But progress wasn't linear. 3 days later, Caleb came home from a particularly brutal shift to find the apartment empty. Evelyn's office light was off. The bedroom door was closed. He knocked gently. "Evelyn?" No answer. He opened the door carefully. Evelyn sat on the floor beside her bed, still in her suit, knees pulled to her chest. Her laptop was open beside her, screen dark. "Hey," Caleb said softly. "What happened?" "Lost a client." Her voice was hollow. "Biggest contract we had. They went with a competitor. My board is furious. I spent 12 hours in meetings trying to salvage it, and I failed." Caleb sat down beside her. Not too close, just close enough. "That's brutal." "I don't fail." She looked at him, eyes red. "I don't lose. That's not what I do. You're human. Humans fail sometimes. Not me. I can't afford to." "Says who?" Evelyn laughed bitterly. "Everyone. The board, the investors, the employees depending on me. I built this company from nothing. If I show weakness, if I make mistakes, it all falls apart. That's a lot of weight to carry alone. I don't have a choice." "You do. You just won't let yourself see it." She shook her head. "You don't understand. Everything I am is wrapped up in that company. Without it, I'm nothing." "That's bullshit," Caleb said quietly. Evelyn stared at him, shocked. "You're brilliant," Caleb continued. "You're disciplined. You're capable of incredible things, but you're also a person who deserves rest, who deserves kindness, who deserves to exist outside of work. The company isn't you. It's something you built. There's a difference. I don't know how to separate those things anymore." "Then learn. Start small, like pancakes." Despite everything, Evelyn smiled faintly. "Pancakes? Yeah, you didn't know how to make them. You learned. You can learn this too." She was quiet for a long time. Then she leaned her head against the wall and closed her eyes. "I'm so tired," she whispered. "I know. I don't remember how not to be tired. That's okay. We'll figure it out." She opened her eyes, looked at him. "Why do you care?" Caleb thought about that. About this woman who'd given him shelter when he had nothing, who was brilliant and broken in equal measure, who was learning to be human again, one meal at a time. "Because I've been where you are," he said, "and I know how lonely it gets. Nobody should have to carry everything alone." Evelyn's expression crumbled. She pressed her hands to her face, shoulders shaking. Caleb didn't say anything, just sat there while she cried, really cried, maybe for the first time in years. When she finally stopped, she looked exhausted but lighter somehow. "I'm sorry," she said. "That was unprofessional." "Evelyn, we're sitting on your bedroom floor at midnight. I think we're past professional." She laughed, raw and honest. "I suppose we are." Caleb stood, offered his hand. She took it, let him pull her up. "Have you eaten today?" he asked. "No?" "Come on." He made grilled cheese sandwiches, simple, comforting. They ate in the kitchen, both too tired for conversation, but the silence was warm, safe. When they finished, Evelyn washed the dishes herself. Caleb dried. Domestic, normal, strange and perfect. "Thank you," Evelyn said as she hung up the towel. "For this, for earlier, for not treating me like I'm broken." "You're not broken. You're just human." She smiled. "That's terrifying." "Yeah, but it's better than the alternative." Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened. The apartment transformed. Not physically. Evelyn's aesthetic remained pristine, controlled. But the atmosphere changed. Life crept in through the cracks. Emma's drawings appeared on the refrigerator. Evelyn put them there herself. The kitchen started smelling like food, coffee in the mornings, garlic in the evenings. Laughter echoed through rooms that had only ever known silence. Evelyn started coming home at reasonable hours, not every day, but more often. She'd walk in, set down her briefcase, and ask what was for dinner with something close to anticipation in her voice. One Saturday, she didn't go to the office at all. Caleb found her in the living room, staring at the TV remote like it was a puzzle. "How do you turn this on?" she asked. "You're kidding." "I am not." Caleb showed her. They ended up watching a nature documentary with Emma, all three of them on the couch. Halfway through, Emma fell asleep between them. Evelyn looked down at the small girl, then at Caleb. "Is this okay?" she whispered, gesturing to Emma using her leg as a pillow. "More than okay." Evelyn carefully adjusted so Emma would be more comfortable. She did it with the same precision she brought to everything, but there was tenderness there too. Real care. When the documentary ended, Caleb carried Emma to bed. He came back to find Evelyn still on the couch, staring out the windows at the city. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure." "What do you want? Long term? For yourself? For Emma?" Caleb sat down. "Stability, I guess. A place of our own. Enough money that I'm not terrified every time the car makes a weird noise. For Emma to feel safe." "That's all?" "That's everything." Evelyn nodded slowly. "It sounds simple, but it's not, is it?" "No, it's not." "I spent 20 years chasing success," Evelyn said, "building the company, proving I could compete with men who dismissed me. I sacrificed everything, my marriage, my health, any semblance of a personal life. And when I finally reached the top, I realized I didn't know what to do there. Just keep climbing, I guess, because that's all I knew how to do." "What changed?" "You showed up." She looked at him. "You and Emma. And suddenly this apartment wasn't just a place I slept between meetings. It became something else." "What?" "Home," she said quietly. "I think it became home." The word hung in the air between them. "I've been thinking," Evelyn continued, "about the way I've been living, about what I've been missing. I can't undo 20 years of choices, but maybe I can make different ones going forward." "Like what?" "Like actually taking weekends, like eating meals that don't come from takeout containers, like being present for things that matter." "That's good," Caleb said. "That's really good." "I hired a COO," Evelyn added, "someone to handle day-to-day operations. The board fought me on it, said I was relinquishing control. But I'm tired of control meaning isolation." Caleb felt pride swell in his chest. "I'm proud of you." Evelyn looked startled. "No one said that to me in years." "Then people are idiots." She laughed, genuine and warm. "Perhaps." They sat in comfortable silence watching the city lights. Caleb felt something shift between them, something deeper than gratitude, more complex than friendship. "Can I tell you something?" Evelyn said eventually. "Always. When I first offered you this arrangement, it was purely transactional. I saw someone in need. I had resources. It felt efficient, logical. And now? Now it's not transactional at all." She turned to face him. "You've given me more than shelter for my conscience. You've reminded me what it feels like to be seen. Not as a CEO, not as a success story, just as a person." "You did the same for me," Caleb said. "I was drowning, working myself to death, trying to be everything for Emma while feeling like I was failing at all of it. This place gave me breathing room. But you gave me perspective." "How?" "By showing me that success doesn't mean anything if you're miserable, that it's okay to need help, that being vulnerable isn't the same as being weak." Evelyn's eyes glistened. "I'm still learning that last part." "Me too." She reached out, hesitated, then placed her hand over his. The touch was careful, uncertain, but intentional. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." Caleb squeezed her hand gently. "Thank you." They stayed like that for a while, hands linked, silence comfortable, until Evelyn yawned. "I should sleep," she said. "Actual sleep, novel concept." "Revolutionary." She stood, still holding his hand, then released it slowly. "Good night, Caleb." "Good night, Evelyn." He watched her walk to her bedroom, noticed the way her shoulders had relaxed, the way her steps seemed lighter. The next morning, Caleb woke to find Evelyn in the kitchen again. This time there was no smoke. She'd successfully made coffee and was attempting scrambled eggs. "You're up early," she said, not looking away from the pan. "So are you, and you're cooking." "Don't sound so surprised. I'm capable of growth." The eggs were slightly overcooked, but edible. They ate together, Emma joining them in her pajamas, and for a moment, Caleb let himself imagine this was permanent, this strange little family they'd accidentally created. But reality intruded later that afternoon. Caleb got a call from his supervisor. The company was downsizing. His position was being eliminated. They'd pay him through the end of the month, but after that, he was out. He stood in the middle of the apartment, phone still in his hand, feeling the ground shift beneath him. Emma was at a friend's house. Evelyn was at work. He was alone with the news that he'd just lost his income. Without the delivery job, he couldn't save money, couldn't find an apartment, couldn't leave. He'd become dependent on Evelyn's charity, the one thing he'd sworn he wouldn't do. Caleb called the school, made sure Emma's pickup was still arranged, then sat on the couch and put his head in his hands. He was still there when Evelyn came home at 6. "Caleb?" She set down her briefcase, walked over quickly. "What's wrong?" He told her. Everything. The job loss. His fears about becoming a burden. His pride warring with necessity. Evelyn listened without interrupting. When he finished, she sat beside him. "First," she said firmly, "you are not a burden. You've brought more life into this apartment in 2 months than it's seen in 5 years. Second, losing a job is not a moral failing. It's circumstance. Third, you have options." "Like what?" "Like working for me." Caleb looked up. "What?" "My company needs operations coordinators, people who can manage logistics, handle scheduling, interface between departments. You've been juggling delivery routes and parenting and living in an impossible situation with grace. Those are transferable skills." "Evelyn, I don't have a degree. I don't have experience in—" "You have problem-solving skills, work ethic, reliability. That's more valuable than any degree." She met his eyes. "I'm not offering charity. I'm offering employment. You'd interview like anyone else, but I think you'd be an asset." "Why would you do this?" "Because you deserve a chance, and because I'm selfish. I don't want you to leave." The admission hung between them, raw and honest. "I don't want to leave either," Caleb said quietly, "but I need to stand on my own. For Emma. For myself." "Then stand on your own with a stable job and a fair wage. There's no shame in accepting help, Caleb. You taught me that." He searched her face, looking for pity, found only sincerity. "Okay," he said. "I'll interview." Evelyn smiled. "Good. Monday morning. Wear something professional." "And Caleb?" "Yeah?" "You're going to be fine. Both of you." The certainty in her voice made him believe it. That weekend, Evelyn helped him prepare. They went over interview questions, discussed the company structure, talked through scenarios. It felt strange being coached by a billionaire CEO at her kitchen table, but it also felt right. Sunday night, after Emma was asleep, they sat together on the couch. "Nervous?" Evelyn asked. "Terrified." "Don't be. Just be yourself. That's more than enough." Caleb looked at her, this woman who'd somehow become essential to his life in ways he was only beginning to understand. "Can I ask you something personal?" "You've seen me cry on my bedroom floor. I think we're past boundaries." He smiled. "Fair point. Why did your marriage really end?" Evelyn was quiet for a long time. "I told you he left because I chose work. That's true. But it's not complete. The truth is, I pushed him away. Whenever things got difficult, I retreated into work. It was safer than vulnerability, easier than admitting I needed help or support. He tried for years. Eventually, he stopped trying. Do you regret it?" "Every day, but I also know I wasn't ready to be the partner he needed. I had too much to prove, too much fear." "And now?" She turned to him. "Now I'm learning, slowly, that maybe I don't have to prove anything anymore. That maybe being enough doesn't require being perfect." "You've never been anything less than enough, Evelyn." Her breath caught. "You really believe that?" "Completely." She leaned closer, and for a moment Caleb thought she might kiss him. His heart hammered, but she just rested her head on his shoulder, tentative and trusting. "Thank you," she whispered. Caleb wrapped an arm around her shoulders. They sat like that until both their breathing slowed, until the city lights blurred, until exhaustion pulled them toward sleep. "We should probably move," Evelyn murmured. "Probably." Neither of them moved. Eventually, Caleb woke to find morning light streaming through the windows. Evelyn was still asleep against him, peaceful in a way he'd never seen. He didn't want to wake her, didn't want to break this moment. but Emma would be up soon. Real life waited. Gently, carefully, he shifted. Evelyn's eyes opened. "Morning," he said softly. She blinked, realized their position, and sat up quickly. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to—" "Don't apologize. I didn't mind." Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them, too fragile to name yet. "Your interview is in 3 hours," Evelyn said, standing. "I'll make coffee." "You sure you know how?" She shot him a look that was pure CEO. "I'm a quick study." The coffee was perfect. The interview went well. Caleb got the job. And when he came home that evening to tell Evelyn the news, she hugged him without hesitation. The embrace lasted longer than it probably should have. Neither of them pulled away first. Things were changing between them, shifting from gratitude to friendship to something neither was quite ready to acknowledge. But it was there, growing stronger every day, in shared meals and quiet conversations, in the way Evelyn smiled when Emma showed her drawings, in the way Caleb noticed when Evelyn was stressed and made her tea without being asked. The apartment wasn't just shelter anymore. It was becoming something neither of them had expected. It was becoming home. Caleb's first day at Cross Technologies started with him standing in front of his closet, staring at the single dress shirt he owned. It had a small stain on the collar he'd never quite gotten out. His hands were shaking. "Daddy, you look fancy," Emma said from the doorway, already dressed for school in her favorite purple dress. "Thanks, sweetheart." He tried to smile, but his stomach was twisted in knots. "You're going to do great." Evelyn appeared behind Emma, already in her usual armor of a tailored suit and perfect hair, but her eyes were soft. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be." They rode down in the elevator together, Emma chattering between them about a science project. In the lobby, Evelyn's driver was waiting with the car. She'd insisted on it, said it was ridiculous for them to take separate transportation when they were going to the same building. The drive downtown felt surreal. Caleb watched the city pass by through tinted windows, Emma pointing out things she recognized, Evelyn responding to emails on her phone, but occasionally glancing up to smile at something Emma said. When they pulled up to the Cross Technologies building, Caleb felt his breath catch. 60 stories of steel and glass, the company name etched in letters 3 feet tall above the entrance. "It's just a building," Evelyn said quietly, reading his expression. "And you belong here as much as anyone." "Easy for you to say. Your name's on it." "All the more reason I know what I'm talking about." She stepped out of the car, then turned back. "3rd floor. As for Diane Reese, she's head of operations and expecting you. I'll be on 42 if you need anything." "You're not coming with me?" "You don't need me to hold your hand, Caleb. You've got this." He wanted to argue, to ask her to at least walk him in. But she was right. He needed to do this himself. Emma hugged him goodbye before her school carpool arrived. "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too, Em." Then it was just him, standing in front of a building that represented everything he'd never thought he could achieve, about to walk into a job he wasn't sure he deserved. He took a breath and went inside. Diane Reese turned out to be a woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that reminded him of Evelyn. She walked him through the basics, introduced him to the team, showed him his desk in an open office space filled with people who all looked like they knew exactly what they were doing. "You'll shadow Marcus for the first week," Diane said, gesturing to a guy in his late 20s who looked up from his computer and waved. "He'll teach you our systems. After that, you'll take over route optimization for our East Coast logistics. Questions?" About 1,000, but Caleb just shook his head. "I'm good." "Great. Marcus, he's all yours." The day was a blur of information, software systems, spreadsheets, delivery protocols, supply chain management. Marcus talked fast, assumed Caleb understood things he'd never heard of, and by lunch Caleb's head was pounding. "You look lost," Marcus said, not unkindly. "It's a lot on day 1. "Yeah," Caleb rubbed his eyes. "I'm used to just driving the routes, not planning them." "You drove for Summit, right? That's actually perfect. You know what works on the ground. Most people up here just look at data and don't think about the reality." Marcus grabbed his jacket. "Come on, lunch break. There's a decent place downstairs." The cafeteria was nicer than any restaurant Caleb had been to in the past year. Marcus got a salad. Caleb got a sandwich and tried not to think about the price. "So how'd you land this gig?" Marcus asked between bites. Diane doesn't usually hire people without logistics experience. Caleb hesitated. Someone recommended me. Must have been a hell of a recommendation. You could say that. They ate in silence for a moment, then Marcus leaned back. Look, I'll be straight with you. People are going to wonder how you got here. Some might assume you don't deserve it. Best thing you can do is work your ass off and prove them wrong. That's the plan. Good, Marcus grinned. I like you already. Most new hires are too scared to admit when they're overwhelmed. You seem real. Real. It was the same thing Evelyn had said about him once. Maybe it was enough. The afternoon went smoother. Marcus broke things down into smaller pieces, showed Caleb the logic behind the systems. By the time 5 o'clock hit, Caleb's brain felt like mush, but he'd successfully optimized a 3-stop delivery route without help. Not bad, Marcus said. See you tomorrow. Caleb made his way to the elevator, planning to text Evelyn about getting home. But when the doors opened on the 42nd floor, he stepped out instead. The executive level was different, quieter. Plush carpeting instead of industrial flooring. Original artwork on the walls. A receptionist who looked up with perfectly professional curiosity. Can I help you? I'm here to see Evelyn Cross. I'm Caleb Morgan. The woman's expression shifted slightly. One moment. She made a call, spoke quietly, then nodded. Ms. Cross will see you. Last office on the right. Caleb walked down the hallway, passing glass-walled conference rooms and offices with nameplates that read like a who's who of corporate America. Evelyn's office was at the end, and through the glass wall, he could see her at her desk, focused on her computer. He knocked. She looked up, and her whole face changed. The CEO mask dropped away. She smiled. Come in. Her office was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A desk that probably cost more than his car had. Bookshelves filled with industry journals and awards. But what caught his attention was the small framed photo on her desk that hadn't been there before. It was from the Saturday they'd watched the nature documentary. Someone had taken a picture of the three of them on the couch, Emma asleep between them, both adults smiling at something off camera. Caleb didn't even remember anyone taking it. When did you get that? He asked. I asked my assistant to print it. Evelyn stood, came around the desk. I wanted something that reminded me why I hired a COO, why I'm trying to actually have a life outside this building. Caleb felt warmth spread through his chest. First day was intense. Marcus is a good teacher, tough but fair. How did you know I was with Marcus? I know everything that happens in my company, Caleb. That's slightly terrifying, she smiled. How are you feeling, honestly? Overwhelmed, out of my depth, terrified I'm going to screw something up. That's normal. You'll adjust. What if I can't? Evelyn stepped closer, her expression serious. Then you'll ask for help. You'll learn. You'll adapt. The same way you've been doing since the day we met. You're one of the most resilient people I know, Caleb. Don't doubt that. He wanted to believe her, wanted to feel the confidence she seemed to have in him. Thank you, he said. For this. For everything. Thank me by succeeding and by being home for dinner. I'm attempting to cook again. Caleb laughed. Should I be worried? Absolutely, but I'm trying. That has to count for something. They left together, took the elevator down, and rode home in comfortable silence. Emma was already back at the apartment when they arrived. The nanny Evelyn had insisted on hiring greeting them at the door. She finished her homework and had a snack, the woman said. Same time tomorrow. Yes, thank you, Patricia, Evelyn said. When Patricia left, Emma ran to Caleb. How was your first day? Did you do important business things? Very important business things, Caleb said, scooping her up. How was school? We learned about fractions. I hate fractions. Join the club. Evelyn disappeared into the kitchen. Caleb heard sounds that made him nervous, clanging pots, muttered curses, the smell of something burning. He set Emma down and went to investigate. Evelyn stood at the stove, staring at what might have once been chicken, but now resembled charcoal. She looked up at him, defeated. I followed the recipe exactly. How high did you have the heat? The highest setting. I wanted it to cook faster. Caleb bit back a smile. That's not how cooking works. Apparently. She turned off the burner. I'm sorry. I wanted to have dinner ready when you got home. I wanted to do something nice. The genuine disappointment in her voice made his heart ache. He walked over, gently took the spatula from her hand, and turned her to face him. The fact that you tried means everything, he said. But how about we cook together? Like the pancakes? She nodded, looking younger and more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. I really am terrible at this. You're learning. That's what matters. They made pasta together, Emma helping by setting the table and choosing music to play from Evelyn's expensive sound system. The meal was simple but good. They ate together, talking about their days, Emma telling elaborate stories about her classmates, Evelyn sharing edited versions of her meetings, Caleb admitting he'd almost crashed the routing software twice. After dinner, Emma asked if Evelyn wanted to see her room. It was the first time she'd invited Evelyn into her space. Evelyn looked genuinely touched. I'd love to. Caleb cleaned up while their voices drifted from down the hall, Emma's excited chatter and Evelyn's quieter responses. When he finished, he found them sitting on Emma's floor, surrounded by drawings. This one's my favorite, Emma was saying, holding up a picture of 3 stick figures in front of a tall building. That's you, that's Daddy, and that's me. We're a family. The word hung in the air. Caleb saw Evelyn's expression shift, something raw and painful crossing her face before she carefully schooled it back to neutral. It's beautiful, Evelyn said softly. You're very talented. You can keep it if you want. Really? Emma nodded enthusiastically. I made it for you. Evelyn took the drawing carefully, like it was something precious. Thank you, Emma. I'll put it somewhere special. Later, after Emma was asleep and the drawing was on Evelyn's office desk, they sat together in the living room. The city stretched out below them, millions of lights in the darkness. She called us a family, Evelyn said quietly. I heard. Is that what this is? Caleb considered the question, considered everything that had changed between them over the past months. The meals shared, the conversations late into the night, the way Evelyn had started looking at Emma with something like maternal affection, the way his heart jumped whenever she walked into a room. I think maybe it is, he said. If you want it to be. Evelyn turned to him. I've never been good at family. I failed at marriage. I don't have a relationship with my own parents. I dedicated my life to success and thought that would be enough. Was it? No. She smiled sadly. It was lonely, so incredibly lonely. I just didn't let myself feel it until you showed up and made me remember what connection feels like. You're doing better than you think. Emma adores you. And you? Evelyn's voice was barely a whisper. What do you feel? The question should have terrified him, should have made him deflect or change the subject. But sitting there in the dark with this woman who'd saved him in more ways than one, Caleb found he couldn't lie. I feel like I'm in dangerous territory, he admitted, like I'm starting to care about you in ways that probably complicate everything. Like I look forward to coming home because I know you'll be here. Like the idea of eventually leaving makes my chest tight. Evelyn's breath caught. Caleb, I know it's complicated. I know there's a power imbalance. I know I work for you now and you're my landlord, and there are probably 100 reasons this is a terrible idea. What if I feel the same way? The words stopped him cold. He turned to look at her, found her eyes already on him, vulnerable and honest. Do you? He asked. I think about you constantly, Evelyn said. I rearrange my schedule so I can be home for dinner. I imagine what it would be like if this wasn't temporary. If you and Emma stayed, not because you had to, but because you wanted to. She paused. I'm falling for you, both of you, and it terrifies me. Why? Because I ruin things. I push people away. I don't know how to be what you need. Caleb reached for her hand. She let him take it, her fingers cold and trembling. You don't have to be anything except yourself, he said. The woman who burns toast and works too hard and is learning to let people in. That's who I'm falling for, not some perfect version, just you. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to hurt you, or Emma. Then don't. Choose to stay present. Choose to keep trying. That's all anyone can do. She nodded, squeezing his hand. I want to try. I want this to work, whatever this becomes. Me too. They sat there, hands linked, not quite ready to cross the line between what they were and what they could be. But the acknowledgement hung between them, real and undeniable. The next few weeks were strange. Nothing changed overtly, but everything felt different. Caleb caught Evelyn watching him sometimes with an expression that made his pulse race. She found excuses to touch him. A hand on his shoulder, fingers brushing when passing dishes, sitting close enough on the couch that their thighs touched. Emma noticed too, in the way kids do. "Are you and Evelyn going to get married?" she asked one morning while Caleb was making breakfast. He nearly dropped the spatula. "What? Why would you ask that?" "Because you look at each other the way people do in movies before they kiss." "Emma, I wouldn't mind if you did get married. Evelyn's nice, and she's teaching me chess." "She's teaching you chess?" "Uh-huh. She's really good. She says I have strategic thinking." Emma said the words carefully, like she'd been practicing. "That means I'm smart." Caleb's heart swelled. "You are smart, and Evelyn's right, but marriage is complicated." "Adults always say that when they're scared." He stared at his 6-year-old daughter. "When did you get so wise?" She shrugged. "I pay attention." At work, Caleb was finding his rhythm. Marcus had moved him to independent projects, and while he still had moments of feeling lost, he was handling more than he'd thought possible. Diane had even complimented his work on a particularly tricky routing problem. But the real challenge came on a Wednesday afternoon when Caleb was called into a meeting with the senior operations team. He walked into the conference room to find a dozen people in expensive suits, all looking at him with varying degrees of skepticism. Diane was there. So was Marcus. And at the head of the table, Evelyn. "Mr. Morgan," Evelyn said, her voice pure business. "We have a situation. Our Seattle distribution center is experiencing major delays. Marcus suggested you might have insight, given your experience with ground-level logistics. Walk us through how you'd approach this." Caleb's mouth went dry. Every eye in the room was on him. He recognized a test when he saw one. He walked to the whiteboard, picked up a marker, and started drawing. Routes, choke points, alternative pathways. He talked through traffic patterns, delivery windows, the reality of what drivers faced versus what the data showed. "The problem isn't the routes," he said. "It's the loading sequence. You're optimizing for warehouse efficiency, but that means drivers waste time reorganizing in the trucks. If you load by delivery order instead of product category, you cut handling time by at least 15 minutes per route." The room was silent. Then Marcus started nodding. "That's brilliant," he said. "Why didn't we think of that?" "Because you've never loaded a truck," Caleb said simply. "No offense, but there's a difference between theory and practice." Diane looked impressed. Evelyn's expression remained neutral, but he saw something flicker in her eyes. "Pride, maybe." "Implement it," Evelyn said. "Morgan, work with the Seattle team directly. I want results in 2 weeks." "Yes, ma'am." The meeting ended. People filed out, some nodding at Caleb with new respect. When the room cleared, only Evelyn remained. "Ma'am," she said, one eyebrow raised. "You were in CEO mode. Seemed appropriate." She smiled. "You did well. Really well. I was terrified." "I know, but you didn't let it stop you." She gathered her papers. "Dinner tonight? I'm attempting salmon." "Should I call the fire department on standby?" "Probably wise." That night, the salmon was only slightly overcooked. They ate with Emma, who'd started setting the table without being asked, who chatted about her day with the comfort of someone who felt completely at home. After Emma went to bed, Caleb found Evelyn in her office. Not working for once, just sitting in her chair, staring at Emma's drawing on her desk. "Hey," he said from the doorway. "You okay?" "I've been thinking," Evelyn said, "about what we talked about this thing between us." Caleb's heart started pounding. "And? I don't know how to do this. How to be in a relationship while maintaining professional boundaries. How to protect Emma if this doesn't work out. How to—" "Evelyn." He walked into the office, crouched beside her chair. "We don't have to figure it all out tonight. We can take it slow, see where it goes." "I'm not good at slow." "Then learn. Like the cooking." She laughed despite herself. "Everything comes back to cooking with you." "It's a useful metaphor." Evelyn reached out, touched his face gently. Her hand was warm. I'm scared. Me too. But you still want to try? More than anything. She leaned down. He leaned up. Their lips met in the middle, soft and tentative and perfect. The kiss was brief, careful, like they were both afraid of breaking something precious. When they pulled apart, Evelyn was smiling, really smiling, in a way that transformed her entire face. Okay, she said, let's try. The shift was subtle but profound. They didn't tell Emma right away, didn't want to confuse her or build expectations. But things changed. Evelyn started initiating physical affection, a hand on Caleb's back when she passed him in the kitchen, sitting closer on the couch, leaning against him while they watched movies with Emma. Caleb brought her coffee in the mornings the way she liked it, reminded her to eat lunch, left notes in her briefcase on days when she had difficult meetings. They stole moments when Emma was occupied, kisses in the kitchen, conversations in low voices, learning each other in increments. At work, they were scrupulously professional. Caleb reported to Diane, not Evelyn. They never showed favoritism. If anything, Evelyn was harder on him than other employees, pushing him to excel without any suggestion of special treatment. She's tough on you, Marcus observed one day. She's tough on everyone. Yeah, but with you it's different. Like she knows you can handle more. Caleb thought about that. About how Evelyn challenged him precisely because she believed in him. How she never coddled or made excuses. How she treated him like an equal. She sees potential, Caleb said. I'm trying to live up to it. His Seattle project succeeded. Delivery times improved by 20%. Diane gave him more responsibility. Other team members started coming to him with questions, respecting his practical knowledge. Caleb was building something. Not just a job, but a career. He opened a savings account, started planning for the future, started believing he could give Emma the stability she deserved. But underneath the success, tension was building. Because living with Evelyn, working for her, falling for her, it was all tangled together in ways that couldn't last. They were living in a bubble, and eventually, bubbles burst. The breaking point came on a Friday night. Caleb came home to find Evelyn in the kitchen, but she wasn't cooking. She was on the phone, her voice sharp and stressed. I don't care what the board wants. We're not making that acquisition. It's a terrible investment, because I said so. Fine. Emergency meeting Monday morning. I'll present my case then. She hung up, slammed her phone on the counter. Bad day? Caleb asked carefully. The board thinks they know better than me how to run my own company. She poured herself wine with shaking hands. They want to acquire a competitor. I've seen their books. It's a disaster waiting to happen. But they're pushing back, questioning my judgment. Can they overrule you? Technically, yes, if enough board members vote against me. She drank deeply. 20 years building this company, and they still don't trust me. Caleb moved closer. What do you need? I need to work. I need to prepare arguments, run numbers, build a case that even idiots can understand. Okay, I'll handle Emma. Take all the time you need. Evelyn looked at him, something breaking in her expression. I don't want to work. I want to have dinner with you and Emma and pretend none of this exists. But I can't, because if I lose this fight, people lose jobs. The company suffers. Everything I built crumbles. Then we'll have quick dinner, and you'll work after. You don't have to choose between everything and nothing. She set down her wine glass, pulled him into a fierce hug. Thank you, she whispered against his shoulder. For understanding, for not asking me to be less than I am. I would never ask that. They had dinner, takeout, because neither had the energy to cook. Emma talked about school. Evelyn tried to be present, but kept glancing at her phone. Caleb could see her mind already in Monday's meeting. After Emma went to bed, Evelyn disappeared into her office. Caleb cleaned up, then went to check on her around midnight. She was surrounded by papers, laptop open, eyes red from staring at screens. Come to bed, he said softly. I can't. I need to. Evelyn, you've been working for 6 hours. Your brain needs rest. My brain needs to save my company. He walked over, gently closed her laptop. She looked up at him, exhausted and stubborn. 5 minutes, he said. Take 5 minutes. Breathe. Then you can go back to it." She wanted to argue. He could see it. But instead, she let him pull her up, guide her to the couch in her office. They sat together, Evelyn leaning against him, tension slowly draining from her body. "What if they're right?" she said quietly. "What if I'm wrong about the acquisition?" "Are you?" "No, the due diligence is clear. It's a bad deal." "Then trust yourself. You've built an empire on your instincts. Don't doubt them now." Evelyn turned to look at him. "How are you so calm?" "Because I've learned from you. You taught me that fear doesn't mean stop. It means proceed carefully." She kissed him then, deep and desperate. Caleb kissed back, pouring reassurance into the contact. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. "I should get back to work," Evelyn said, but she didn't move. 5 more minutes," she smiled. 5 more minutes. They sat in the quiet dark of her office, holding each other, stealing peace before the storm. Monday's meeting was brutal. Evelyn left early, face set with determination. Caleb went to work trying to focus on his own projects, but constantly wondering how it was going. At 3 p.m., his phone buzzed with a text from Evelyn. 1, barely, coming home early, need you. He left work at 5, rushed home to find Evelyn on the couch, still in her suit, staring at nothing. "Hey," he said, sitting beside her. "You won." "I know." "So why do you look like you lost?" "Because 3 board members voted against me. 3 people I trusted questioned my judgment, and I had to fight tooth and nail to prove I know what I'm doing with my own company." She looked at him. "I'm so tired of fighting." Caleb pulled her close. "Then stop. Just for tonight. No fighting. No proving. Just rest." She curled into him, and he felt her whole body relax. They stayed like that until Emma came home, until dinner needed to be made, until life demanded attention again. But in those stolen moments, Caleb realized something important. This wasn't just about shelter anymore. It wasn't about gratitude or convenience or even attraction. He was completely, irrevocably in love with Evelyn Cross. And judging by the way she held on to him like he was the only solid thing in her world, she felt the same way. The question was what they were going to do about it. The realization settled over Caleb like snow, quiet, inevitable, transforming everything it touched. He was in love with Evelyn Cross, not the CEO, not the woman who'd given him shelter, but the person who burned toast and worked too hard and was learning to laugh again. The woman who played chess with his daughter and asked questions about Emma's day like the answers actually mattered. The woman who fell asleep on his shoulder after brutal board meetings and trusted him to see her exhausted and vulnerable and imperfect. He didn't tell her right away. The words felt too big, too heavy with implication. What did it mean to be in love with someone when you lived in their home, worked for their company, depended on their generosity for everything you had? The power imbalance was undeniable. And yet sitting beside her on the couch that Monday evening, watching her finally breathe normally again after the stress of her meeting, Caleb couldn't deny what he felt. Emma came home full of energy, talking about a field trip to the Science Museum. Patricia the nanny said goodbye, and suddenly it was just the 3 of them again. Evelyn rallied, asking Emma questions about what she'd seen, genuinely interested in 6-year-old explanations of gravity and friction. "And then we got to see real moon rocks," Emma exclaimed. "They're just rocks, but they're from space, so that makes them special." "Context changes everything," Evelyn said, smiling. "Something ordinary becomes extraordinary based on where it came from." Caleb met her eyes over Emma's head. The words felt loaded with meaning beyond moon rocks. Later, after Emma was asleep and they'd cleaned up dinner together in comfortable silence, Evelyn pulled out a bottle of wine, something expensive that Caleb had learned not to comment on because she'd just say it was meant to be enjoyed, not admired. They settled on the couch with their glasses, the city lights spread out below them like a field of stars. "I need to tell you something," Evelyn said, her voice careful. "The board meeting today. It wasn't just about the acquisition." Caleb turned to look at her. "What else?" 3 members brought up concerns about my judgment in other areas, specifically my hiring practices. She met his eyes. "They know about you." His stomach dropped. "What do they know?" "That you're living here. That I hired you despite unconventional qualifications. They're implying favoritism, suggesting my personal life is compromising my professional decisions." "Are they right?" "No." Evelyn's voice was firm. You've exceeded every expectation. Your Seattle project alone justified my faith in you. But perception matters in business. And the perception is that I'm showing preferential treatment to someone I have a personal relationship with. Caleb set down his wine glass, his hand suddenly unsteady. What are you saying? I'm saying we need to be careful. I'm saying this thing between us, whatever it's becoming, has implications beyond just you and me. You want to end it. The words came out flat, dead. No. Evelyn grabbed his hand. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying we need to be strategic. We need to protect what we're building, both professionally and personally. How? She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know yet, but I know I'm not willing to give you up, either of you. The words should have been reassuring, but Caleb heard the uncertainty beneath them, the fear that maybe there wasn't a solution that worked for everyone. What if we can't have both? He asked quietly. What if choosing this means one of us loses something else? Then we make that choice with full awareness of the cost. Evelyn squeezed his hand. But I'm not ready to surrender without exploring every option first. They sat in the complicated silence of people who'd stumbled into something profound and were only now realizing how difficult it might be to keep. The next few weeks were a study in careful balance. At work, Caleb and Evelyn were scrupulously professional. He called her Ms. Cross in meetings. She critiqued his work without softening her standards. They never ate lunch together, never stayed late at the same time, never gave anyone ammunition to claim impropriety. At home, they were something else entirely. Evelyn had started joining them for breakfast most mornings, still learning to cook but getting better. She'd successfully made French toast the previous Saturday without setting off any smoke alarms, and Emma had declared it the best breakfast ever, which made Evelyn beam with pride for the rest of the day. They'd fallen into routines that felt dangerously domestic. Evelyn helped Emma with homework while Caleb cooked dinner. They took turns reading bedtime stories. On weekends, they explored the city together, museums, parks, the aquarium that Emma loved. To anyone watching, they looked like a family, but they still hadn't defined what they were to each other. They kissed goodnight after Emma was asleep, sometimes more than kissed, but always with an awareness that they were dancing around something neither was quite ready to name. "When are you going to tell Emma?" Marcus asked one day at work. Caleb nearly spit out his coffee. "Tell Emma what?" "That you and the boss are together. Come on, man. I've seen you two trying to pretend you're not looking at each other. It's adorable and also really obvious." "We're not. It's complicated." "It always is." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "For what it's worth, I think you're good for her. She's been different since you started. More human. Less Ice Queen." "She was never an Ice Queen. Just protected." "Exactly. And you somehow got past the walls." Marcus grinned. "Just be careful. Office romances are tricky, and when one person signs the other's paychecks, it gets even trickier." Caleb knew he was right. The situation was a minefield of potential complications, but he also couldn't imagine walking away. That Friday, Diane called him into her office. Caleb went with his stomach in knots, wondering if this was it, if the other shoe was finally dropping. "Sit down," Diane said, not unkindly. He sat. "You've been here 3 months now," she began. "In that time, you've improved our East Coast efficiency by 18%, solved the Seattle bottleneck, and become one of the most reliable members of the operations team." Caleb waited for the but. "I want to promote you to senior logistics coordinator. It comes with a significant raise and more responsibility. You'd have your own team." He blinked. "Seriously? I don't joke about promotions, Morgan. You've earned this." She slid a folder across the desk. "Look over the details. Let me know by Monday if you accept." Caleb left her office in a daze. A promotion. More money. Enough that he could actually afford his own place, could move out of Evelyn's apartment if he wanted to, could stand on his own feet. The thought should have been liberating. Instead, it felt like loss. He went home that evening to find Evelyn already there, which was rare for a Friday. She was in the kitchen with Emma, both of them covered in flour, attempting to make cookies. "Daddy!" Emma shouted. "We're baking! It's going terrible, but also fun." Caleb laughed despite the turmoil in his head. "I can see that." Evelyn looked up, flour on her nose, and smiled. The domesticity of the scene hit him like a physical force. This was what he wanted, not just romance, not just security. This strange, imperfect family they'd created. "Good day?" Evelyn asked. "Yeah. Can we talk later?" Something in his tone made her eyes sharpen with concern, but she just nodded. Of course. They finished the cookies together, lumpy and misshapen, but edible. Emma ate 3 and declared them perfect. After she went to bed, Caleb found Evelyn in her office, laptop closed for once. "So," she said, "talk to me." He told her about the promotion, the raise, the opportunity, and then quietly, he told her what it meant. I could afford my own place now, could give Emma her own space, could stop being dependent on your generosity. Evelyn's expression went very still. "Is that what you want?" "I don't know. Yes. No. Maybe." He ran his hands through his hair. "I want to be with you. But I also want to stand on my own, and I don't know how to do both." "You think leaving here means standing on your own?" "Doesn't it?" Evelyn stood, walked to the window, her back to him. "When I offered you this apartment, it was transactional, a solution to a problem. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about charity or obligation. This became your home, Emma's home, our home." "Evelyn, let me finish." She turned to face him. "If you want to leave, if you need space to feel like you're building something independently, I understand. I won't stand in your way. But don't leave because you think staying means you're weak or dependent. You've given me as much as I've given you, more, maybe. You've taught me how to live again, how to be present, how to believe I deserve something beyond work." Caleb's throat tightened. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying stay, not as my guest, not as someone I'm helping. Stay as my partner, as Emma's co-parent, as the person I'm falling in love with." The words hung in the air, raw and honest and terrifying. "You love me?" Caleb asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm falling in love with you," Evelyn corrected. Present progressive tense. It's happening, has been happening. I fought it for a while because it was inconvenient and complicated and potentially disastrous. But I'm done fighting it. Caleb crossed the room, pulled her into his arms. "I love you too, have for weeks now. I just didn't know how to say it." They kissed, deep and certain, no hesitation or careful testing. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. "So you'll stay?" Evelyn asked. "On one condition." She raised an eyebrow. "You're negotiating?" "I pay rent, market rate, I contribute to groceries, utilities, everything. I'm not a guest anymore. I'm a tenant who happens to be in a relationship with the landlord." Evelyn considered this. "That's fair. Though I should warn you, market rate in this building is obscene. Then I'll get a roommate discount." She laughed, the sound bright and free. "Deal." They shook hands solemnly, then dissolved into laughter at the absurdity of formalizing their relationship with rental agreements. "We should tell Emma," Caleb said. "She already knows something's going on. Kids aren't stupid." "Tomorrow," Evelyn agreed. "We'll sit her down and explain that this is real, that we're together, that this is permanent, if she's comfortable with it. And if she's not, then we adjust. Her needs come first, always." The next morning they made pancakes together, all 3 of them now, because Emma had insisted on learning too. When they sat down to eat, Evelyn and Caleb exchanged glances. "Emma," Caleb began, "we need to talk about something important." Emma looked up, syrup on her chin. "Are you and Evelyn boyfriend and girlfriend now?" Caleb blinked. "How did you—" "I told you, I pay attention." She looked at Evelyn. "You make Daddy happy. He smiles more now, and you're not as scary as you were before." "I was scary?" Evelyn asked, amused. "A little bit, but in a cool way, like a superhero." Emma swung her legs under the table. "So are you getting married or what?" "We're taking things slow," Caleb said carefully. "But yes, we're together, and we wanted to make sure you're okay with that." Emma considered this with the seriousness of a judge. "Do I still get to live here?" "Yes," Evelyn said firmly. "This is your home. That doesn't change." "And we'll still have family dinners?" "Absolutely." "And you'll still help me with chess?" Every week, if you want. Emma nodded, satisfied. Then I'm okay with it. Can I have more pancakes? Just like that, the tension dissolved. Caleb met Evelyn's eyes across the table, saw his own relief and joy reflected there. It should have gotten easier after that. But life had other plans. 2 weeks later, Caleb's ex-wife showed up. He came home from work to find a woman sitting in the lobby, and his whole world tilted sideways. Jennifer looked exactly the same. Blonde hair, sharp features, designer clothes that screamed money. She stood when she saw him. "Hello, Caleb." "What are you doing here?" His voice came out harsh, protective. Emma was upstairs. Jennifer had no right to be anywhere near her. "I want to see my daughter." "You don't have a daughter. You gave up that right when you walked out." Jennifer flinched. "That's not fair." "Life's not fair. You taught me that." "I made mistakes. I was young and scared and I handled things badly. But I've changed. I'm in therapy. I have my life together now and I want to be part of Emma's life." Caleb felt rage building in his chest, hot and dangerous. "You send a card once a year. You haven't called in 4 years. You don't get to just show up and demand access. I have legal rights. You have nothing. You signed away custody. You wanted nothing to do with us." I was drowning, Caleb. Postpartum depression, anxiety, feeling like I was losing myself. I needed help, and instead I ran. I'm not proud of it, but I'm trying to make amends. Emma doesn't need amends. She needs stability, consistency. Things you've never provided. Jennifer's eyes hardened. "I know about your situation, living with your boss. The woman who signs your paychecks. Is that really the stable environment you want to claim moral superiority about?" Caleb went very still. "How do you know about Evelyn?" "I have friends. I keep tabs on my daughter, even from a distance. I know you lost your apartment. I know you're shacked up with some CEO. I know Emma's living in a penthouse with a woman she barely knows. Evelyn is more of a mother to Emma than you ever were. We'll see what a judge says about that." The words hit like a punch to the gut. "You're threatening me with court?" "I'm saying I want visitation rights, and if you fight me, I'll make your living situation an issue. Judges don't look kindly on parents who involve children in inappropriate relationships." "There's nothing inappropriate. You're sleeping with your landlord and your boss. How is that not a conflict of interest? How is that providing a stable home?" Caleb wanted to scream. Wanted to tell her that Evelyn had given them stability when they had nothing, that she loved Emma, that they were a family in every way that mattered. But Jennifer wouldn't understand. And more terrifying, she might be right about what a judge would think. "I need to think about this," Caleb said finally. "You have until Monday. Then I'm filing paperwork." Jennifer softened slightly. "I don't want to fight you, Caleb. I just want to know my daughter. Can't we find a way to make that work?" She left before he could answer. Caleb stood in the lobby, shaking with anger and fear, trying to figure out what the hell he was supposed to do. He rode the elevator up in a daze, walked into the apartment to find Emma and Evelyn at the dining table, working on a puzzle together. They looked up, smiling, and his heart broke a little. "Daddy!" Emma jumped up. "We're making a castle. Come help." "In a minute, sweetheart. I need to talk to Evelyn first." Something in his tone made Evelyn's smile fade. She stood, followed him to the kitchen. "What happened?" He told her everything. About Jennifer, about the threats, about the impossible choice between fighting for Emma and risking their unconventional family being torn apart in court. Evelyn listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "What do you want to do?" she asked finally. "I want to tell her to go to hell, but I'm terrified of losing Emma. If a judge decides our living situation is inappropriate, if they give Jennifer custody, they won't. You don't know that." "No, but I know lawyers, good ones, the best ones. And I know that Emma's well-being is documented. School records, therapy notes if we need them, Patricia's observations, your employment history. Emma is thriving, Caleb. Any evaluator will see that. And they'll also see that she's living with her father's girlfriend who pays the rent and signs his paychecks. Then we fix the optics." Evelyn's voice was steady, businesslike. "You take the promotion, get your own place if you need to. We date traditionally, separate homes, public outings, everything by the book. We make it impossible for Jennifer to claim an appropriate environment. The suggestion made logical sense. It was the smart play, the strategic move, and it made Caleb feel sick. I don't want to leave, he said quietly. I don't want to pretend this isn't real. I don't want to go back to being alone. You wouldn't be alone. We'd still be together. In separate apartments, seeing each other on weekends like we're in high school. That's not what this is. Then what do you suggest? Caleb didn't have an answer. He just knew that Jennifer showing up had illuminated every fragile aspect of what they'd built, and he didn't know how to protect it. That night he lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Around 2 a.m., there was a soft knock on his door. Come in, he said quietly. Evelyn entered wearing pajamas, her hair down. She looked younger in the darkness, uncertain. Can't sleep either? She asked. No. She sat on the edge of his bed. I've been thinking about what you said, about not wanting to leave, about this being real. Evelyn, I know the smart thing. The smart thing is to fight for what we want, together. She took his hand. I've spent my whole life making strategic decisions, sacrificing personal happiness for professional success, choosing safety over risk. And where did it get me? Alone in a beautiful apartment, working 20-hour days, convinced that was enough. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe it's time I stop being strategic and start being honest. I love you, I love Emma, and I'm willing to stand up in court and say that if it comes to it. I'm willing to hire the best family law attorneys in the state. I'm willing to fight Jennifer with everything I have. Caleb sat up, pulled her close. That could get ugly, could damage your reputation. Let it. I've built a reputation on being ruthless and isolated. Maybe it's time I build one on being human instead. He kissed her, grateful and desperate and terrified. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. And Emma deserves parents who fight for her, both of us. They held each other in the darkness, finding strength in proximity. Eventually, Evelyn fell asleep curled against him, and Caleb finally felt some of the tension ease from his shoulders. They would face this together. Whatever came next, they wouldn't face it alone. Monday morning, Caleb called Jennifer. I'll agree to supervised visitation, he said, once a month, 2 hours, with a neutral third party present. You get to know Emma gradually, you prove you're committed, and you stay the hell away from my relationship with Evelyn. There was a pause. That's it? You're not going to fight me? I'm not going to fight you for the sake of fighting, but I am going to protect my daughter. These are my terms. Take them or take me to court. Another pause. Okay, supervised visits, once a month. I can work with that. Relief flooded through him. Good. Caleb? Thank you. I know I don't deserve... You're right, you don't. But Emma deserves the chance to know her mother, if that's what she wants. We'll take it slow. And if you hurt her, if you disappear again, I will make sure you never get another chance. Understood. He hung up, hands shaking. Evelyn appeared in the doorway of his bedroom, having heard the whole conversation. You did good, she said. Did I? Or did I just invite more chaos into our lives? Only time will tell, but you made the choice that centers Emma. That's what matters. That evening, they sat Emma down and explained carefully that her mother wanted to visit sometimes. Emma listened quietly, processing. Do I have to see her? She asked finally. No, Caleb said firmly. Not if you don't want to. Emma thought about this. I guess I could meet her, just to see what she's like. But you have to come too. I'll be there the whole time. And Evelyn? Evelyn looked surprised. If you want me there, I'll be there. Emma nodded, decided. Okay, but if she's mean or boring, we don't have to see her again, right? Right. Then it's okay. Simple as that. Kids had a way of cutting through complexity to the heart of things. The first visitation happened 2 weeks later at a family counseling center. Jennifer brought gifts, expensive toys that Emma accepted politely but didn't seem particularly excited about. The conversation was stilted, awkward. Jennifer tried too hard. Emma was guarded. But when Jennifer asked about school, about chess, about the things Emma loved, something shifted. Emma opened up a little. Talked about her teacher, her friends, the science museum. Jennifer listened with what seemed like genuine interest, and when the 2 hours were up, she hugged Emma carefully. "Thank you for giving me a chance," Jennifer said. Emma just nodded and reached for Caleb's hand. In the car on the way home, Emma was quiet. "What did you think?" Caleb asked carefully. "She seems nice, but she's like a stranger who looks like someone I should know." Emma looked up at him. "Is that weird?" "No, sweetheart. That's exactly what she is right now. Maybe that will change. Maybe it won't. Either way is okay. I like Evelyn better." From the driver's seat, Evelyn glanced in the rearview mirror, eyes soft. "Why?" Caleb asked. "Because Evelyn was here when I needed someone. She taught me chess and makes bad cookies and doesn't try to be perfect. She's real." Caleb met Evelyn's eyes in the mirror, saw her blink back tears. "Yeah," he said quietly. "She is." That night, after Emma was asleep, Evelyn found Caleb on the balcony. The November air was cold, but he needed it, needed to clear his head. "You okay?" she asked, wrapping a blanket around both of them. "I think so. Today was hard. Seeing Jennifer with Emma, seeing what we lost when she left, but also what you built without her." "Yeah." He pulled Evelyn closer. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for this to fall apart, for something to prove it's too good to be true. What if it doesn't? What if this is just our life now?" Caleb let that sink in. The possibility that maybe, just maybe, they'd found something sustainable, something real. "Then I'm the luckiest guy alive," he said. Evelyn smiled against his shoulder. "We're both pretty lucky." They stood there in the cold, wrapped in blankets and each other, watching the city breathe below them. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. Life kept moving, kept churning, full of chaos and uncertainty. But here, in this moment, they had peace. They had each other. And for now, that was enough. The weeks following Jennifer's first visit settled into something resembling normalcy, though Caleb had learned that normal was a relative term. Emma saw her mother once a month, each visit slightly less awkward than the last, though the relationship remained cautious and surface level. Jennifer sent texts between visits now, asking about Emma's day, and sometimes Emma even responded. It wasn't a mother-daughter bond. Not yet, maybe not ever. But it was something, and Emma seemed okay with that. What surprised Caleb most was how the situation had strengthened rather than fractured what he and Evelyn were building. Facing Jennifer's challenge together had stripped away the last pretense that this was temporary or casual. They were in it now, fully committed, and that certainty changed everything. December arrived with the kind of cold that made the city feel brittle and bright. Emma started talking about Christmas incessantly, making lists and drawing pictures of decorated trees. One evening, she looked up from her homework with sudden seriousness. "Are we going to have Christmas here?" she asked. "Like, all of us together?" Caleb glanced at Evelyn, who was reviewing contracts on her laptop at the kitchen counter. She looked up, meeting his eyes. "I'd like that," Evelyn said carefully. "If it's okay with your dad." "More than okay," Caleb said. "But I should warn you, Emma goes all out for Christmas." "Define all out." Emma's eyes lit up. "Decorations everywhere. Cookies, hot chocolate, Christmas movies every night, and we need a tree. A big one." Evelyn closed her laptop, giving Emma her full attention. "I've never decorated for Christmas before." Emma's jaw dropped. "Never? Not even when you were a kid?" "My parents weren't really the decorating type, and as an adult I was always working through the holidays. It seemed pointless to decorate for myself." "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard," Emma declared. "We're fixing that. Right, Daddy?" Caleb smiled, watching Evelyn's expression shift from surprise to something softer. "Right. Operation Christmas is officially underway." The following Saturday, they went to pick out a tree. Evelyn drove them to a lot on the edge of the city where rows of evergreens stood waiting. Emma ran between them, rejecting each one for various reasons. Too short, too sparse, branches not symmetrical enough. "She's very particular," Caleb explained as Evelyn watched Emma inspect yet another tree. "She knows what she wants. I respect that." "You're not used to this, are you? The chaos, the mess, the complete lack of efficiency." Evelyn smiled, her breath visible in the cold air. No, but I'm learning to appreciate it. Emma finally found the perfect tree, 8 feet tall, full and fragrant. It took 3 of them to get it tied to the roof of Evelyn's car, and by the time they were done, they were all laughing, covered in pine needles and freezing. Getting the tree into the apartment was an adventure involving the freight elevator, 2 building staff members, and Emma providing directions like a tiny, enthusiastic foreman. When they finally had it standing in the living room, it dominated the space, making the usually pristine apartment feel lived in and festive. It's perfect, Emma breathed. It's enormous, Evelyn said, but she was smiling. They spent the evening decorating. Caleb had bought basic ornaments, nothing fancy, and he apologized for not having the beautiful glass ones that probably matched Evelyn's aesthetic. These are perfect, Evelyn said firmly. She held up a construction paper ornament Emma had made in school, a crooked star covered in glitter. This is going front and center, Emma beamed. They strung lights, hung ornaments, and made a mess of tinsel. Evelyn proved surprisingly bad at it, her need for perfection clashing with the organic chaos of holiday decorating. But she laughed at her own mistakes, let Emma guide her, and slowly relaxed into the imperfection of it all. When they finished, Caleb turned off the overhead lights. The tree glowed in the darkness, casting warm light across the 3 of them. Emma curled up between them on the couch, exhausted and happy. Best tree ever, she murmured, already half asleep. Caleb looked over her head at Evelyn. She was staring at the tree with an expression he couldn't quite read. Wonder, maybe, or grief for all the Christmases she'd missed by choosing work over life. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For this. For showing me what I was missing. Emma fell asleep between them, just like that first documentary night months ago. But this time, when Caleb met Evelyn's eyes, there was no uncertainty, just warmth and belonging and the quiet certainty of home. Work became complicated in unexpected ways. Caleb's promotion had come with increased visibility, which meant more people knew about his relationship with Evelyn. Most were professional about it. Some were supportive. A few made snide comments that Marcus shut down immediately. But the real challenge came from an unexpected source. Diane called Caleb into her office 2 weeks before Christmas. He went prepared to discuss the new routing system he'd been developing, but her expression told him this wasn't about work. Close the door, she said. He did, his stomach sinking. I'm going to be blunt, Diane began. There's talk about you and Evelyn, about favoritism and conflicts of interest. Most of it's just gossip, but some members of the executive team are concerned. My performance speaks for itself. It does. You're excellent at your job. That's not the issue. The issue is perception. When the CEO is dating an employee, it creates complications. Questions about every promotion, every decision involving you. Caleb felt anger rising. So what are you suggesting? That one of us quit? I'm suggesting you need to be above reproach. Document everything. Make sure every achievement is measurable and justified. And consider whether it makes sense for you to report directly to me rather than anyone in Evelyn's chain of command. I already do report to you. Yes, but there are still indirect connections. I'm just trying to protect you both. Caleb softened slightly. Diane was trying to help, not attack. What does Evelyn think about this? I haven't talked to her yet. I wanted to hear your perspective first. My perspective is that I love her. That's not going to change. But I also want to earn everything I get on my own merit. So tell me what I need to do to make that clear. Diane nodded, seeming satisfied. Keep doing what you're doing. Be transparent, and maybe attend the holiday party together. Make it official and open rather than something people speculate about. The holiday party. Caleb had almost forgotten about it. Cross Technology's annual event was legendary. Black tie, open bar, held at one of the city's most exclusive hotels. He'd been planning to skip it. I don't even own a tux, he said. Then buy one or rent one. This is important, Caleb. You need to show you're not hiding, that this relationship is real and serious, not some scandalous secret. He talked to Evelyn about it that night. She was in her office, but for once, her laptop was closed. She'd been making an effort to actually finish work at reasonable hours, and it showed in her face. She looked rested, more at peace. Diane thinks we should go to the holiday party together, he said from the doorway. Evelyn looked up. And what do you think? I think she's right. I think hiding makes it look worse. But I also think showing up together makes a statement I'm not sure I'm ready for. What kind of statement? That this is serious, that we're together for real, that I'm willing to stand next to you in front of your entire company and claim this. Evelyn stood, walked over to him. Are you ready for that? Caleb thought about the past 6 months, about everything they'd been through, about the life they were building together. Yeah, he said. I am. Are you? I've been ready since the first time you made me dinner and called me out for starving myself. She smiled. Let's go to the party. Let's make it clear to everyone that this is real. I need a tux. I'll take you shopping. That sounds terrifying. Trust me, I have excellent taste. She did. The following Saturday, while Emma was at a friend's house, Evelyn dragged Caleb to a men's store that probably didn't even have price tags because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. The salesman took one look at Evelyn and immediately began pulling options. Caleb tried on what felt like 20 different jackets before Evelyn finally nodded with satisfaction. That one. He looked at himself in the mirror. The tux fit perfectly, making him look like someone who belonged in Evelyn's world. It was strange and uncomfortable and also kind of exciting. I look like I'm playing dress-up, he said. You look gorgeous. Evelyn came up behind him, adjusting his bow tie. You're going to be the most handsome man at the party. You're biased. Completely, but also correct. They bought the tux. Evelyn insisted on paying, said it was her Christmas gift to him, and refused to hear arguments. On the drive home, Caleb felt nerves building. What if I embarrass you, he asked. What if I use the wrong fork or say something stupid to a board member? Then you'll be human, which is more than most of them can claim. Evelyn reached over, squeezed his hand. I'm not bringing you because you're perfect. I'm bringing you because you're real, because you make me better, and because I want everyone to know that I chose you. The night of the party arrived with the kind of anxiety that made Caleb's hands shake while he tied his bow tie. Emma was having a sleepover at Patricia's house, a special treat that she'd been excited about all week. Evelyn had already left to handle last-minute party preparations, leaving Caleb to get ready alone. He stared at himself in the mirror, barely recognizing the man looking back. 6 months ago, he'd been sleeping in his car, desperate and broken. Now he was putting on a designer tux to attend a billionaire's Christmas party as her date. Life was strange. The car service arrived at 7. Caleb rode through the city, watching the lights blur past, trying to calm his racing heart. When they pulled up to the hotel, photographers were stationed outside. Actual photographers, like this was a movie premiere. This is insane, Caleb muttered. You'll be fine, sir, the driver said kindly. Just smile and keep walking. Easier said than done. Caleb stepped out of the car, immediately hit by flashes and questions shouted from people he didn't know. He kept his head down and walked quickly into the hotel. The ballroom was transformed into a winter wonderland. Ice sculptures, white flowers everywhere, tables set with crystal and silver. And people, hundreds of them, all dressed in designer gowns and expensive tuxes, all looking like they belonged here. Caleb felt completely out of place. Then he saw Evelyn. She stood near the bar talking to a group of executives, wearing a dress that was somehow both elegant and devastating. Deep blue silk that caught the light when she moved. Hair up, showing her neck. She looked like power and grace personified. And when she saw him, her whole face lit up. She excused herself from the conversation and walked over, not caring that people were watching. You came, she said. Did you think I wouldn't? I hoped, but I know this isn't your scene. No, but you are. He offered his arm. Ready to scandalize your board of directors? Evelyn laughed, took his arm. Absolutely. They moved through the party together. Evelyn introduced him to everyone, board members, investors, senior staff. Some looked surprised. A few looked disapproving. Most were polite and professional. Marcus appeared with his wife, both grinning. You clean up nice, Marcus said, shaking Caleb's hand. You too. This is Sarah. Sarah, this is the guy I've been telling you about. Sarah smiled warmly. The one who improved our logistics and stole the CEO's heart? Caleb blinked. I wouldn't say stole. I would, Evelyn said calmly. He absolutely stole it, and I'm not giving it back. The certainty in her voice made Caleb's chest tighten with emotion. She meant it. This wasn't performance or strategy. This was real. Dinner was elaborate. Multiple courses, wine pairings, speeches from various executives. Evelyn gave a brief address, thanking the staff for another successful year and outlining goals for the next. She was professional, commanding, every inch the CEO. But when she sat back down, she found Caleb's hand under the table and squeezed it. After dinner, music started. Couples moved to the dance floor. Evelyn looked at Caleb expectantly. I don't really dance, he said. Neither do I. We'll figure it out together. They moved to the floor and Caleb put his arms around her, trying to remember what dancing was supposed to look like. They swayed more than danced, offbeat and clumsy, but it didn't matter. Thank you for being here, Evelyn said softly. I know this is hard for you. It's getting easier. Everyone's been surprisingly nice. They're curious. They want to see what kind of man could make me smile like this. Like what? Like I'm happy. Like I'm not just succeeding, but actually living. Caleb pulled her closer. You deserve to be happy. So do you. They danced through several songs, lost in each other, barely aware of the room around them. When they finally took a break, Diane appeared with a knowing smile. You two are causing quite a stir, she said. Good stir or bad stir? Caleb asked. Good. People are saying they've never seen Evelyn so relaxed, that she seems different, more human. She's always been human, Caleb said. She just didn't let people see it. Diane nodded approvingly. Hold on to this one, Evelyn. He's good for you. I plan to, Evelyn said. The party wound down around midnight. They said their goodbyes and escaped to the waiting car. As they drove home through the quiet city, Evelyn rested her head on Caleb's shoulder. That wasn't as terrible as I expected, he said. You were perfect. I was terrified. But you did it anyway. That's what makes you brave. Back at the apartment, they checked on Emma through the security camera Patricia had set up. She was fast asleep, safe and content. Caleb poured them both wine, and they stood by the windows, looking out at the city that had brought them together. Can I ask you something? Evelyn said. Anything. When you imagine the future, what do you see? Caleb thought about it. I see Emma growing up here, safe and happy. I see you coming home at reasonable hours. I see us having dinner together, the three of us, every night. I see trips and holidays and normal, boring, wonderful life. What do you see? Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. I see the same thing, and it terrifies me because I've never wanted something like that before. I've never let myself want it. Why does it terrify you? Because I don't know how to do it. How to balance work and life. How to be a partner and a parent figure without losing myself. How to be vulnerable without falling apart. You're already doing it, Caleb said gently. You have been for months. The difference is now you're letting yourself acknowledge it. She turned to face him, eyes bright with unshed tears. I want to marry you. The words hung in the air, shocking and perfect. What? Caleb's voice came out strangled. I want to marry you, Evelyn repeated, stronger now. I want Emma to be ours, legally. I want this to be permanent and official. I want to stop worrying about power dynamics and conflicts of interest and just be a family. Evelyn, I know it's fast. I know we should probably wait, but I'm tired of waiting. I've spent my whole life being strategic and careful, and where did it get me? Alone. I don't want to be alone anymore. I want this. I want you. I want us. Caleb set down his wine glass with shaking hands. Are you proposing to me? Yes? I think I am. Evelyn laughed, slightly manic. I don't have a ring. I didn't plan this. But standing here tonight, after showing you off to everyone I work with, after seeing how brave you were in a world that isn't yours, I just knew. This is it. You're it. And I'm done pretending to be patient. You're serious. Completely. Caleb pulled her close, heart pounding so hard he could hear it. Then yes. Absolutely yes. Evelyn's breath caught. Really? Did you think I'd say no? I love you. I want to spend my life with you. I want Emma to have you as her mother. I want all of it." They kissed, deep and certain, and full of promise. When they broke apart, both were crying and laughing at the same time. "I can't believe I just proposed without a ring," Evelyn said. "That's so unlike me. I can't believe I'm marrying a billionaire CEO who can't cook toast." "I've gotten better at toast." "You really have." They stood there holding each other, letting the enormity of the decision settle over them. Outside, the city glittered with a million possibilities. Inside, they'd found the one that mattered. The next morning, they woke up to Emma jumping on the bed. "Patricia brought me home early. Can we make pancakes? Can we—" She stopped, looking between them suspiciously. "Why are you both being weird?" Caleb and Evelyn exchanged glances. "We have something to tell you," Evelyn said. "Something important." Emma sat down, suddenly serious. "What?" "Your dad and I are going to get married." Emma's eyes went wide, then she grinned. "Really? Really?" Caleb confirmed. "What do you think about that?" Emma launched herself at both of them, wrapping her arms around as much of them as she could reach. "I think it's perfect. Does this mean Evelyn's my mom now?" "If you want her to be," Evelyn said carefully. "I would be honored to be your mom, but only if you're comfortable with that." Emma pulled back, looking at Evelyn with her serious face. "Will you still help me with chess?" "Every week." "And read me stories?" "Whenever you want." "And live here with us forever?" "Forever." Emma nodded, satisfied. "Then, yeah, you can be my mom, but I get to be in the wedding." They both laughed, pulling her close again. The engagement wasn't long. Neither of them saw the point in waiting. They planned a small ceremony for early spring, just close friends, a few family members, nothing elaborate. Emma would be flower girl, wearing a purple dress she picked out herself. Jennifer was surprisingly supportive when they told her, saying she was happy Emma would have a stable family. The monthly visits continued, slowly building toward something that might eventually resemble a relationship, though everyone understood it would take time. At work, the engagement was met with mixed reactions. Some congratulated them. Others whispered about impropriety. But when Diane announced that Caleb would be transitioning to a newly created position in a different division, still a promotion, still prestigious, but with no reporting relationship to anyone connected to Evelyn, most of the criticism died down. Caleb didn't mind. The new role was actually better suited to his skills, and it removed any legitimate concerns about conflicts of interest. Christmas came and went in a blur of joy. Emma loved every gift, but her favorite was the framed photo of the three of them that Evelyn had printed and put on the mantle. Their little family, official and real. On New Year's Eve, they stayed home instead of going to parties. Made dinner together, Emma helping with increasingly competent results. Evelyn had finally mastered basic cooking, though she still occasionally burned things when she got distracted. As midnight approached, they stood on the balcony despite the cold, wrapped in blankets, watching the city prepare to celebrate. "This time last year," Evelyn said, "I was working. Alone in my office, convinced that was enough. That success was enough." "And now?" Caleb asked. "Now I know the difference between success and happiness, between achieving and living. You taught me that." "You taught me something, too." "What?" "That accepting help isn't weakness, that asking for what you need isn't failure, that sometimes the best thing you can do is let someone in." Emma tugged on both their hands. "It's almost midnight." They counted down together, the three of them, voices mingling with the sounds of the city below. When midnight hit, fireworks exploded over the harbor, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Caleb kissed Evelyn while Emma cheered. When they broke apart, he saw tears on her face. "Happy tears?" he asked. "The happiest. I have everything I never knew I wanted." "Me too." They stood there as the new year began, this family that had formed from desperation and circumstances and the simple courage to be vulnerable. Emma fell asleep between them eventually, and they carried her inside, tucked her into bed. Later, lying in the darkness of their bedroom now, officially, Evelyn spoke quietly. "Do you ever regret it? Losing your apartment? Everything that led you here?" Caleb thought about it. About the eviction notice. The fear. The desperation. The moment he'd stood in front of this building, carrying everything he owned in 3 bags with no idea what he was walking into. "No," he said honestly. "That was the worst day of my life, but it led to the best thing that ever happened to me. To us." "I don't believe in fate," Evelyn said, "but I believe in this, in what we built together." "What did we build?" "A home. Not just a place to live. A real home. With love and laughter and terrible cooking and everything that matters." Caleb pulled her close. "Yeah, we did." The wedding happened on a Saturday in March. Small ceremony in the penthouse they all called home, surrounded by people who loved them. Emma walked down the aisle first, taking her job seriously, scattering petals with precision. Then Evelyn, beautiful in a simple dress, smiling like Caleb had never seen her smile before. The vows were personal, honest. Evelyn promised to come home for dinner, to let herself be imperfect, to choose living over just succeeding. Caleb promised to push her to rest, to celebrate her victories, to build a life worthy of the love they'd found. When they kissed, Emma cheered louder than anyone. The reception was small but joyful. Marcus gave a speech about watching Caleb transform the logistics department, and Evelyn transform into someone who occasionally smiled. Diane talked about how rare it was to see 2 people so perfectly matched in their willingness to grow. And Emma, when she insisted on her own speech, simply said, "I'm glad you found each other, and I'm glad I get to be part of this family." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. That night, after everyone had left and Emma was asleep in her room, Caleb and Evelyn stood at their usual spot by the windows. The city stretched out below them, constant and changing and full of possibility. "We did it," Evelyn said. "We did. I never thought I'd have this. A partner, a daughter, a real family. Neither did I. I thought I'd spend my life just surviving, getting by, making sure Emma was okay, but never really thriving myself. And now? Now I'm living, actually living, with someone who makes me want to be better while accepting me exactly as I am." Evelyn leaned into him. "I love you. I'm going to say that every day for the rest of our lives until you're sick of hearing it." "I'll never be sick of hearing it." They stood there in comfortable silence, 2 people who'd been broken in different ways, who'd found each other through circumstances that seemed like disasters at the time, who'd had the courage to build something new. The penthouse wasn't just Evelyn's anymore. It was theirs. The kitchen that had been pristine and unused now showed signs of life. Emma's drawings on the fridge, dish towels hanging slightly crooked, a crack in one of the fancy plates from when Caleb had dropped it during an enthusiastic cooking session. The office where Evelyn had worked herself to exhaustion now closed at reasonable hours, the light going off before 9 most nights. The bedroom that had been cold and lonely now held warmth and laughter and the simple comfort of shared space. Everything had changed, and it was perfect. 6 months after the wedding, Evelyn came home early one Friday with news. "I'm stepping down as CEO," she announced. Caleb looked up from where he was helping Emma with homework, shocked. "What?" "Not completely. I'll stay on the board. But I hired a new CEO, someone brilliant who will take the company in good directions. I'm transitioning to an advisory role." "Why?" Evelyn sat down at the table with them. "Because I realized something. I built that company to prove I could, to show I was capable and strong and didn't need anyone. And I did it. But now I want to build something else." "What?" "A life. A real one. With time for family dinners and Emma's school events and vacations and all the things I missed while I was busy achieving." Emma looked up from her math worksheet. "Does this mean you'll be home more?" "So much more. I might even learn to cook properly." "Let's not get crazy," Caleb said, but he was smiling. That summer, they took a real vacation. 2 weeks at a beach house, no work, no schedules, just time together. Emma learned to swim. Evelyn learned to relax. Caleb learned that happiness wasn't something you achieved. It was something you chose every day, in small moments. They built sandcastles and ate ice cream and stayed up late telling stories. Emma declared it the best vacation ever, and Evelyn agreed. On their last night after Emma had gone to bed, Caleb and Evelyn walked on the beach under stars that seemed impossibly bright after city living. Do you miss it? Caleb asked. Running the company? Being in charge of everything? Sometimes, Evelyn admitted. But then I come home and Emma shows me her latest drawing or tells me about her day. And you've made dinner and we eat together like it's the most natural thing in the world. And I realize I traded one kind of success for another, and this one makes me actually happy. No regrets? Not a single one. You? Caleb thought about the eviction notice, about standing in front of this building with nothing but desperation and hope, about every moment that had led him here. Not a single one, he said. They stood at the water's edge, waves lapping at their feet, hands linked, watching the moon paint silver across the ocean. Behind them was the house full of their life together. Ahead was everything they hadn't planned for but had found anyway. Somewhere in the distance, Emma called out that she couldn't sleep without them reading one more story. They laughed and turned back, walking toward the light and warmth of home. This was it. Not perfect, never perfect, but real and honest and full of love. A family built from broken pieces, healed through patience and courage, and the simple choice to stay, to try, to believe that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best things. And as they settled back into the house, Emma between them on the couch, reading a story about adventure and belonging, Caleb realized something profound. He'd lost his apartment that Tuesday 6 months ago. Lost everything he'd been clinging to. But in losing it, he'd found everything that mattered. A home, a family, a love that changed everything. And that, he thought, as Emma's eyes grew heavy and Evelyn's hand found his, was more than enough. It was everything.